I do enjoy engaging with him. And you know, I think a lot of what he said was pretty ironic and kind of fact-free. And so I want to give a speech that kind of like grounds us in where we actually are as a school system, because he talked a lot about how kids don't have choice, but of course, when you look at Virginia's education system, there's a lot of choice baked in, and we actually have a really good education system. So let's just give a couple of examples. A kid can choose to apply to a governor's school. We actually just passed a very good bill from the delegate from Chesterfield, Delegate Robinson, that's going to look at expanding the number of governor's schools, which I think is a great thing. We have magnet schools. In my county, Henrico County, which is a superior district to Fairfax, so he's right, he doesn't have the best schools. And Henrico, every high school has a magnet school that kids can apply to that have different specialties. So if you're interested in government, you can go to the government one. If you're interested in the math one, you can go to the math one. We have innovation schools, Code RVA, where you, if you're interested in coding, can go to take a code-focused educational experience. And we also currently have CTE schools. In Henrico, our CTE school, one of them, they build homes every year. They build a house every year from scratch. I think that's pretty awesome. And last, we currently, under law, have the possibility for lab in charter schools. I know that when we have these debates here back and forth in the chamber, it seems like we don't, but we actually do. And there's a bill coming over from the other side that's putting even more meat on the bone for the lab school bill. It's a bill that I'm going to vote for, and I think we might end up seeing some more lab schools out of that. So we have a lot of choice. It just might not be the choice that you want. But to kind of pivot here, one of the things that I find frustrating about this conversation is there's a lot of stuff going on both sides of the aisle to make our schools better. But then we get a lot of these things that don't seem to be well thought out. You know, we get a tip line because of a radio show. We get a report that school boards weren't consulted on at all. I think that was the first thing they complained about, and I think rightfully. We get attacks on what's taught in classrooms. And I want to focus to end and to conclude on one thing that the delegate said, which is customer, right? And I think that's where you see a lot of us get off the boat on this side of the aisle. Customer, because school is not just an economic exchange. Schools are about building communities. Schools are about fostering growth across the Commonwealth. Schools are about just making people better people. And, you know, to kind of come full circle, I've heard a lot of talk about North Carolina this year and looking at North Carolina as a model where we know they have over 200 charter schools and they have a state authorizer, right? But what that does, of course, is take control from parents. Right? It big boys parents. It forces schools into localities that do not want them. And I don't know why we'd want to be like North Carolina when you look at every rating system in our educational system is better, is higher ranked. And I think to go back to the thing that I'd really like to see in this is we can do lab and charter schools now. But you know what? It does require a lot of effort. You have to build grassroots support. You have to get your community on board. You have to grow it from the bottom up. But you know what? That's what fosters good schools. And that's what we should want. And there's a reason we haven't seen many charter schools in this state in the last couple of years. It's because no one's trying. And so I think let's ground this conversation in fact. Virginia has a wonderful school system. And one of the reasons is because we do give kids a lot of paths to reach their potential. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.